Hey everyone, how y'all doing? Welcome or welcome back to my channel, and today we're talking about how I annotate and tab my books. So I've done quite a few videos like this. I actually have a whole annotation video playlist that I will link down below for you guys to go check out. But the last video of this that I made was, I believe, back in 2019, and it's not necessarily outdated, but it's a bit outdated, and I also just don't like the quality of that video, and so I thought that it's about time to do an updated version of it. I've also annotated a ton more books since then, and I am hoping to kind of implement some new changes into my annotation system, so it's about time that I make this video. So first, before we actually get into my process of how I annotate, I want to talk about why I annotate and kind of like the different levels of my annotation. So sometimes I just tab books and I don't actually write in them or highlight in them, and I just tab them, and that's typically for like new reads. But other times, typically for rereads, I will actually annotate, so where I tab, highlight, and also write in the margins, and also sometimes doodle as well. And I have a few reasons why I annotate my books. So it really just comes down to, I just really love seeing my thoughts and my feelings represented visually in a book. So I like being able to just pick up a book and being able to just like look at all the tabs and look at all my highlights and just see really what I thought about the book, how I felt while I was reading it, the thoughts that I was having, the inside jokes I was having with myself while reading. It's all captured in the book, which I just think is so beautiful. I also just think that in general, annotating a book really enhances the experience for me. I just feel like I get more out of the experience and out of the book when I annotate it and go into it with that kind of mindset, because when I am annotating, I do look at the text a bit closer. I do really try to get in tune with how I'm actually feeling about the book and thinking, what could I be tabbing, what could I be writing in the margins. I just kind of go into it thinking a bit deeper about everything instead of just like zooming through the book. I kind of take a bit more time with it, which I really enjoy. And then like in general, it just makes my copies more personalized and more unique, I guess, because nobody is going to have a book that has my thoughts in it that is unique to me and my experiences and my feelings, and I just really like having that represented. It feels like a little time capsule almost, because I can look at a book that I annotated years ago and be like transported back to how I was feeling while I was reading that book. And I just think it's amazing because I could read it and then my thoughts might have changed, or I could have different things to say, so I add on to the annotations. And I do try to do things in different colors when I'm writing, so I can see the difference between what I thought then and what I'm thinking now. And I don't know, I just really enjoy seeing the like progression of my annotations and just kind of seeing how much I've grown and how my thoughts change, and I just think it's really, really cool. Okay, so I think now I'm just going to show you guys a kind of rundown of the supplies that I use when I'm annotating. It's nothing special. I do use these sticky tabs when I'm annotating. These are just some cheap ones from the dollar store. There are so many different versions of tabs like these that you can buy, and they just have 5 colors to them. But I really like these because they are transparent, so you can see through them when they are on the page. I also just like the colors that come with them, and they don't leave any sort of sticky residue. They don't lift the ink off the page or anything, so these ones work really, really well for me. As for my highlighters, I don't use any sort of specific brand. I actually typically just have like a hodgepodge of different ones. I've got Sharpie ones, I've got Bic ones. It just kind of depends what I have in the house, but they do correlate with the tabbing colors. So we've got a blue, an orange, a yellow, a green, and a pink. I just love having Sharpies so that I can highlight all my favorite moments and then correlate the tabs with those highlights. And then I also have pens so I can actually write my notes in the margins. I usually use some sort of Papermate Inkjoy pen, but I also typically try to match the colors to like the book cover. Like I try to theme it a little bit. And then I also just have a bunch of different pencil crayons. These are just a few because sometimes I do doodle and draw things in my books, and so I just like having some color options. Always gotta have some sort of pencil crayons with me, and I just realized that this one is broken, so that's pretty useless. I should carry a sharpener in here as well, but I don't. So those are all the supplies that I typically use when I'm annotating. So now I guess we can go into my color coding system for when I am annotating, because I do have a specific color coding system, and this is the part that I am making changes in my system. I typically just have one like set color coding system that I use for every single book that I tab and annotate, but over the past like year or two, I've discovered that I prefer actually changing it depending what kind of book I'm reading and just kind of what grabs me in that book. And then in general, I'm also just wanting to change what some of the colors mean when I do use them. So I do have a few different color coding systems. I'm going to quickly run down for you guys ones that I have used in the past and kind of what I'm wanting to gear more towards. So the one that I used to use, that I've used for most of the books on my shelves, is orange means funny moments. moments, pink are quotes, yellow is for any favorite moments, green are for fangirl moments, and then blue are for sad moments. So that's typically what I use, but I've discovered I don't really fully like this system anymore. The colors that never change are orange, yellow, and blue. So the funny favorite moments and sad moments, those colors that never change, those work really well for me. But recently I have changed the color coding slightly depending what I'm reading. So sometimes the green, instead of meaning fangirl moments, it will instead mean relatable moments, and then the fangirl will just be lumped in with the favorite moments tab. But I'm gonna be changing it to where I can do whatever I want, basically. I think the main one that I will use, because these are typically the things that I look out for when I'm reading a book, is orange will be funny. I want to change pink to be fangirl moments. I don't know why I didn't do that to begin with. Like, almost everybody who does color coding like I do uses pink for some sort of love relationship moments, and I just for some reason never did that, and I don't know why, and I hate it. So now I'm actually going to be changing it. So pink is going to finally be for like love romantic moments, fangirling moments. Yellow is still going to remain favorite moments. Green is going to be for quotes or relatable moments depending what I want to do. I'm thinking for when I want to use green for relatable, I think what I'll either do is I'll lump fangirl back in with the favorite moments tab, or I will just lump the quotes with the favorite moments. Something will be lumped with the favorite moments tab just for my sanity. But yeah, I think the one that I'm going to stick with is orange, funny moments, pink, romantic moments, yellow, favorite moments, green, relatable or quotes or something, blue, sad. That's what I'm going with. And to keep this organized, since I will be changing it every so often when I'm reading a book, depending what it kind of calls for, I want to start creating like keys at the beginning of my book. So just putting in like a little piece of paper or something and just writing in what each color means. I have done this a few times before already, but I want to make it more of like a common thing in my system. For example, in my annotated copy of Wonder, I do have a little key at the beginning. So orange was funny, pink was quote, green was relatable, blue was sad, and yellow was favorite parts. And that's mainly because this book really doesn't have many fangirly moments in it, and so I wanted to, instead of looking for those moments because I knew there weren't going to be really any, I changed green to relatable. So it really just depends on what book I'm reading. And so at some point I think I am going to go through all of my, probably mainly annotated, just because I don't really feel like going through the tabbed ones, and putting in a key at the beginning. It's also not very difficult to like go through the books and just quickly flick to the tab and see what it means. But that is my color coding system in a nutshell. That was a very large nutshell, but that's my color coding system. So now let's kind of talk about what do I annotate. So this is going to encompass like actually what do I annotate, like what books do I decide to annotate, but also like within a book what do I annotate. So in terms of what I decide to annotate, so I typically only annotate favorite books, and within that I typically only annotate duplicate copies. So for example, these are 2 copies of Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda that I own. This is a hardcover. It is not annotated, although I did spray paint the edges. And this is my paperback, which is fully heavily annotated. It's got so many annotations in it, like it's just chock full. I've read it and annotated it so many times now. So I typically like to have one version at least that is clean, it has nothing in it, and then a copy that is all marked up, just in case on the off chance I want to read a copy that is not annotated, or for the very rare chance that I lend out a book, I'd much rather lend out a copy that doesn't have annotations in it, just because I can sometimes get a little personal with my annotations and I don't necessarily want other people to read that. On top of that, I also annotate non-fiction books sometimes, and I will do that typically on the first read of the book, but I'll typically start out by just reading it, and if I start to feel a strong connection, then I'll decide to do that, or I'll start off by writing notes on sticky notes, putting it in, and then later deciding to write it actually in the physical book. An example of that is I'll Be There For You, The One About Friends by Kelsey Miller. This is a non-fiction book all about the Friends phenomenon, so I also heavily tabbed and annotated this one. Also in the process of drawing things in it, I just haven't gotten around to finishing, but I did start out by putting things on sticky notes, but then very early on I decided that I actually wanted to write and annotate in it and highlight. And then on the tabbing side of things, I don't tab every single book that I read. I really only tab books if I have like that gut feeling before I start reading it, knowing that I'm gonna want to tab it, that it's gonna be a favorite. That happened with books like The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I just knew going into it that I wanted to tab it. And also Counting Down With You by Tashi Bouillon, also knew that I wanted to tab it. I think this is now my most most tabbed up book that I own. It comes out May 4th. You guys will want to go add this on Goodreads and pre-order it. But these are just books that I knew going into it, had a gut feeling that I was going to love them and that I was going to want to have my first like reaction moments recorded. And sometimes I'll just start a book not knowing that I'll want to annotate it, but I'll like read a line or a moment will happen and I will just be like, oh my goodness, I have to tab this book. That has happened a few times. I can't remember specifically what books that has happened with, but those moments do happen and then I'll end up tabbing the book. And also, I'm sure you already guessed this from my color coding system, but my annotations are solely based on my own personal feelings and how I'm connecting with the book. I don't go into it to analyze it, to take notes of like plot things or foreshadowing or like any kind of development. I don't go into it with like an analytical eye. I just go into it wanting to record how I feel and how I'm connecting with what's going on and with the characters. That's what I like to focus on when I'm annotating. That is what is important to me and what I like to look back on more so than anything else. And just like another note, I don't tab every single highlight that I make. A lot of the times I will highlight something and I will really connect to it, but I don't want to like waste a tab on it. Like it'll just be like a small moment, or sometimes I'll even just like underline things and I won't even highlight it, or I'll underline it and highlight it if I really want to like emphasize that moment, but I don't tab every single thing that I highlight. And let's be real, most of my annotations and notes to myself in the book end up being jokes because I think that I'm the funniest person alive. So so that's basically like the rundown of how I annotate my books and kind of my entire tabbing annotating system. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a huge thumbs up. Comment down below and let me know if you annotate your books and maybe what your color coding system is. And subscribe if you've not yet already, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!